Well, hello, this is Sam in the Reloved Guitars workshop. I'm bringing you a quick look at the third, or an introduction to the third of this week's guitars. It's not that one, I've just done that one. We'll hang that baby back up. It's this one. You can forgive me for making the mistake. The second SG, the second Cherry SG of the week. And sounds like a Harry Hill moment there, but the second Cherry SG of the week. It's the AcePro. Now, many people won't even have seen this brand or heard of this brand before. I certainly hadn't. I saw this on eBay, and a quick bit of research revealed that actually this is supposed to be quite a good or well-made guitar. So it was cheap and in a bit of a rough old state. So I thought, hey, I've got a lot of cherry lacquer. I'm good at sorting out frets and restringing things, and I am sure I can add a couple of, I can take away some chips, I can add some, drill a new hole and fill that and put a new strap button in, and I can find the input jack, the jack input socket, and reinstate that back on the outside. So for not a lot of money I took a punt on this because I've never seen it, and I kind of like the look of it. Now what we've got is a mahogany throughout set neck guitar with an incredibly clean joint. I have to say, this joint here, just checking my thing's still working, this joint here actually is probably the cleanest set neck joint I've seen on one of these guitars, an SG with a glued neck. It's absolutely flawless. I mean, it just looks simple, totally, there's no gum, there's no goo, there's no kind of overspill, it's just beautifully done. I presume really solid. We've got a body that is mahogany. It's probably a two or three piece, probably two piece. It's quite light, as I find mahogany is, and so what you've got is a bit of top heaviness, which you tend to get with SGs. But it's the top end of this guitar that's quite interesting to me. It has what it says are Clousson tuners. Now I don't know if Clousson, I don't know enough about Clousson tuners to know whether they always bear the Clousson brand, but these are pretty good antique tuners in the Clousson style for sure, and they're all functional, which is unusual. None of them are broken off, or apparently none of them seem to be bent or snapped off, which is quite interesting because it's a very strange thinly shaped headstock, and these things stick out quite a long way, so they're not evenly spaced all the way across this. Looking from the front, and I can see more of the shaft on these than I can on these, so the positioning of these aren't perfect on this guitar. But a bit of web research says that AcePro is a company that set up a few years ago to produce credible, good quality copies of all the major guitars, and this thing is an example of it. Now it's just occurred to me, while I'm actually doing this, I'm just going to check something, because I'm just due to find out whether I've won a bid on a guitar I'm looking for. We're 12 minutes away by the looks of this, and I think I'm in with a good chance. If you can, it's currently at 38, 12 minutes to go, and I've got a maximum of 70 on it. So I'm just going to turn this off so I don't ruin the recording. So I'm hopeful that'll be another one coming in. So anyway, back to the AcePro. So nothing surprising about this. Two humbuckers. Don't know if it works at all. Missing a little tab here. Two volumes, two tones. Fairly familiar arrangement. Tunematic bridge, tailpiece, a little scratch plate which has had a horrible monster sticker on it, so you can see the goo. A bunch of stickers covering up, or actually just still on there, so a few dents down to the wood which need fixing, including a couple of bangs here on the neck which leave it very kind of uncomfortable to the hand. But all of it fixable. Frets, a little bit of wear, but again doable. Quite a flat radius again. So no reason why this shouldn't turn into a really nice guitar with a bit of loving and careful work on it. The thing that really strikes me about this guitar is the width of the neck. and it is a very chunky neck down at this end. So it's not a problem. I quite like that being different from all these other guitars, which are very slender by and large. But yeah, this is distinctly stocky. It's like a cricket bat of a guitar. A little bit thinner down here, it feels, as I guess as you come to the higher frets and the cutaway. But there, yeah, this really nice joint. So again, this is going to come to pieces completely. A good solid clean out. Find out what it is that's rattling as well. There is, by the way, there is a tiny crack between the jack input socket there and the tone pot for the bridge pickup. Again, we'll take care of that. We'll make sure it's sealed and stabilised if it's a significant crack. Again, it's probably because this has been dropped and that's pressed in the pot, which is likely to put pressure on that little bridge of wood there. But there's nothing on here we can't fix up, and I'm really hopeful. I've got a bid or a snipe on another AcePro guitar that might be a bit incautious, but it's a semi-acoustic, and to be honest, judging by this, I think it probably could also be a good bet, but it's a low snipe, so I'm not risking much on it. Okay, so that's the third of this week's 3 guitars that have arrived, and we've got some work cut out for us. There's quite a lot to do. On top of that, I've got a repeat customer for servicing and a PV Patriot already underway, which I've got quite a bit of bodywork, sanding and stuff to do. But that's it for introing that guitar, and see you back in a minute for something else. Hey, hello, Sam here in the Reloving Guitars workshop, and been a busy couple of weeks, guitars all over the place, and we're back again with the AcePro, this interesting looking great big lump of an SG, and just having a look down it. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to remember what we've done on this thing, and I don't think we've done anything substantial. I don't think we've done any fret leveling or anything. I think we just had a quick look. Now, what I noticed about this guitar is, apart from the fact that the first thing that happened was the jack plug socket fell off, and it also doesn't have anything holding it in place. So we're kind of, there's quite a few things dangling around, which we're going to have to take care of, probably sooner rather than later. And don't quite know what all of these things are, so I'm going to have to track them back to see where they belong. One of them is evidently comes from the live on the input. I've got its old wiring, jeez. One comes from the input, the other one comes from the top of one goes to the earth. That's the what is it? I think, well, the two blacks are definitely earth wires. I've just got to try and work out where they should be. That's the pickup wire, pickup there, and the other one, the black one, is a pickup wire over there with the white and the earth. That jumps between to the tone. That jumps over to the tone, which is correct. So what exactly this extra one is anyone's guess. And I'm wondering, in fact, have we got an earth coming from the post? Have we got an earth coming from the post? What does it do? Yep, it goes all the way around to the big circle and earth to the top of the pot. Yeah, so we've got something spare hanging around here. Anyway, what were we going to do with this guitar? What were we going to do? Well, I think first of all, the tuners need to come off for a bit of a clean. That would be a good start. And we can put everything in there. Clousson style tuners, whether they're actually Cloussons or not. We'll whip them all off. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, so it's a bit of an unknown, this one, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing whether it will play or not, but we haven't done any major work to it yet. We've just really had a sort of quick look through. The bit that most interests me at the moment is the neck is very chunky, and it doesn't feel like the Les Pauls the SGs that we're used to playing or seeing. I guess they're maybe a bit more modern style, but I have a sneaky feeling that this one is built the way it is because I think it's meant to be emulating an older style SG. I don't know, but I can imagine that. I get the feeling, and it's just a hunch, that some of the older SGs have got chunkier neck than some of the later ones, like the vintage one over there. It's got quite a flat neck. So anyway, I'm going to see what turns up. There's a few repairs to the lacquer to do on this, which is in cherry, which is convenient since I've got cherry lacquer, vintage cherry, and I've got a bit to do on a couple of other guitars, so might be a good spot to do now. And then hang it back up. So right yet we've no idea whether or not the pickups are working. I could do a test on them using the micrometer, or multimeter I should say. But we don't know. So I've got a couple of things I've got to sort out, like somebody's coming for a guitar tomorrow, and I need to make sure they've got a tremolo arm with it, because I don't think I put one with it. Come on, how'd you come? Right. God, there's so much wire in here. It does not need that much wire. That's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to trim it down. It's too much wire. So this is going to the switch, and it's going, where's the jack plug? There it is. So that has got approximately yay too much wire. As does this, same amount too much. As does this, wherever this goes, I cannot tell you at the moment, but it is too far. What's going to be earthed out here that isn't earthed? I am confused. I'm not going to touch that one yet because I don't quite know where it goes. Right, so let's have a quick look. A bit less hanging out the back there. Let's have a look under here. These screws are a bit manky. Oh, I might as well get this truss rod. I guess we're into the take it all apart completely stage now. Do we really want to do that? Don't know. Do we need to? Probably not. I wouldn't mind a look under here. I'm kind of curious. Who knows what these pickups are like? Oh, it's got a little quality control sticker. ROHS compliant. Something of health and safety, I expect. Rules of health and safety compliant. Then it's got a little number in here on a piece of masking tape that says number 5, which then has what appears to be fixed to a neck that has a number 2 written on it. Don't know why that is. So who knows? So these all look, nothing untoward about these. Nothing surprising, nothing disconnected or broken or. There's no reason to take those out, so we don't need to polish around it or anything. So I'm just going to put these back in. I don't have any cleaner screws to do the job than these, unfortunately. kind of gone into memory lapse here because I can't remember if I actually did this neck. I'm pretty sure I haven't. I seem to recall, if I'm thinking back to the videos that I've got stored for this guitar, I've just got the intro video, so that tells me that I've not done the neck. And I should be able to tell. In fact, I can tell because I can see the worn out patches on the neck. So we've still got to do that if we're going to do this whole guitar. Just having a quick look around here. These pots seem to be quite loose. Easy to get off is what I meant. And we'll use a tiny bit of our new favourite friend, the naphtha lighter fluid, good for cleaning up surfaces. Now, that's why I wanted to have a look under there. I wanted to check out this little crack, which I'll show you in a minute close up. So it looked to me like this guitar had been dropped. Dropped probably, or banged very hard, and it had cracked the housing, what I thought had cracked the housing of one of the knobs, but actually the crack is coming out of the hole where the jack plug lives. So it doesn't actually get all the way to the knob, so it's not a result of damage there, it's just come from the jack plug, or the jack plug itself, probably putting leverage on that thin piece of wood. Looking on the other side, it doesn't really appear noticeably on the other side, so it's probably not that serious a crack, not enough to worry about. It just sticks up a little bit, doesn't move if I do anything. Yeah, so it isn't something to worry about. We've got some things to try and fix and sand out here, some big scratches. That's if we're going to take this to the extreme. But it's not too bad. What was that little flake? Right, so switch is very positive, it works. I'll just take this one up and off for a second. So not a complex guitar by any means, so it shouldn't be that hard to do. I will mask off the neck in a minute anyway, just so we can get it some way towards doing it, even if I don't do it right now, because I do want to make progress. There's no point having it hanging up here if we're not going to do anything with it. Yep, this is health and safety approved as well. My 2 pickups that have passed health and safety. I am impressed. If I can just dial these a bit further out and clean some of the gunk that's hanging around. Right, let's compress the springs as much as they'll go. So I've got to go out and pick up another guitar in a few minutes, or in a couple of hours I should say. Had an interesting session this morning. I had a chap come round initially to look at buying a vintage V2 Telecaster copy, which I've had listed on eBay for a while, and he came round and like a classic foolish salesman that I am, I let him have a play of one of my favourite guitars, which is the vintage AV6 Strat with the 3 P90 pickups and the tone control that rolls the P90s into kind of more a single coil thing, although technically they are single coils, aren't they? Anyway, and he loved it, absolutely loved it, and so I could tell he really liked it. And then the inevitable question came, was it for sale? And I wouldn't part with it because I didn't pay very much for it, and kind of, in a sense, I don't think I wouldn't get enough money to compensate for losing such a great guitar. That's a personal thing. But I do know there's another one for sale on eBay currently. So I pointed him at that and just said, you know, I could see that he was probably more interested in that one than the V2. So it was a no-sell meeting, which I'm quite happy about actually. It's much rather he found something he wanted instead of me trying to sell him something just because it's on my, you know, up for sale on my listing. So I'm kind of hoping that he'll go and get that AV2, because I sort of have a secret mission to convince the whole world and convert them to these AV2 Strats, because I just think they're awesome. If you get a chance, have a look at them. Trevor Wilkinson designed. One of the things that convinced me is when I first saw them or noticed them for sale. Well, there was one for sale, and I went then and looked at some of the reviews which had been written over the years in some of the big, well-respected guitar mags. They were saying things like, this guitar is worth twice the money, and you know, they were saying its retail price at the time was about £300, and it was so good that if it had been around the £600 mark, it would have been value for money. So I think that's a pretty astonishing recommendation in this day and age, and it's not one that you kind of ignore readily. So I bought that particular one at a very, very good price from a guy down in St Leonard's on Sea, I think it was. Take a train journey down there, and it was worth my while, because it was and still is a fantastic guitar. You know, to the point that I wouldn't sell it, even if offered more money for it today. It's too nice. Right, so I think what I'll do is I'll just go into masking mode, because we've got to get this done at some point. I'm just going to free up the truss rod cover and see what we're dealing with. Maybe I was hopeful that it's an Allen key adjustment, because I'm still short of the tool that you need for the non-Allen key type adjustment. It's a pretty basic tool, but I don't have it. So I don't want to get caught out on guitars that need it, but I don't have it. So I'll have to get one sooner rather than later. Bit of gunge on there, get rid of that. A bit scratched, but I'm sure I can polish that a little bit. And there we are. Gunge wiped away. Yep, it's an Allen key, that's good news. And we've got a great blob of finish down here, a bit clumsy. Yeah, a few flat spots, nothing too major league bad. Right, so I'm going to just begin the process of masking this off. I'm going to need to get my board out and cut the paper a bit more precisely in a minute, because what happens is we always need to cut the paper into halves and thirds to make it fit the frets, but it's worth doing. It protects your fretboard. As I've said on these videos now 8 billion times, but hopefully you haven't watched a billion of them, otherwise I'd be seriously doubting your sanity. So I'm going to switch this off now and miraculously reappear when that's done. So hello again, just quickly, on the way towards masking off this whole neck, and I'm going to bend all this around the back and connect it up in little tabs, and this is going to make it easier, hopefully, didn't get it wrong, easier to get it all off at the end when we've done. And having done this quite a lot of times, I'll be glad of that at the end, because it's quite hard to unpick it all, especially when it's all very grubby, which it will be by the time we've finished. So the main purpose here, again obviously, is to protect the fingerboard, which is the most important bit of your guitar really. If that's not taken care of, then it gets scratched and knackered. What I'm also doing while we're here is I'm masking off other parts of the guitar that I'm going to do some body work on. It's sort of handy, since I've got loads of masking tape and it doesn't cost very much, it's sort of handy to just start off on a limited amount of things to do. So by masking off a section I'm going to work on, I can basically see the limits to the things I've got to sand down or treat. And it's quite good because it identifies the spots, protects the whole of the rest of the guitar, but it also identifies the bits that I've got to work on. Yeah, and keeps the rest safe. And so I'm just going to whiz round, and you'll see at the end of this, you'll see a guitar with lots of there's a blade, lots of bits, mostly covered, but lots of bits highlighted that I can see that I've got to work on. Okay, so I'll start you again in a minute. So here we are. Got quite a bit covered up here. Went a bit further and covered everything except a couple of chips that I wanted to fill in. So I've touched them in with what's that stuff called? Heritage Cherry it's called, but it's a little bit darker than I'd ideally want, but it will do for this purpose. This is just going to stop it looking like it's through to the bare wood. So I'm going to leave all of this to dry, and then I'm going to do very, very light rubbing, sanding of the lacquer, and just then not the lacquer, well yeah, the lacquer, the cherry lacquer, and then I'm going to apply some clear lacquer on top of that, which will put fair thickness on, because some of these dents are quite deep, but I want to then be able to sand it back to a flat surface. And there's some really bad surface scratching here too, which I'm going to want to sand down and take out. So I've just kind of identified all the spots that need working on, and I've just left a gap so that I kind of protect the rest of the finish, and just work on the bits that need working on. So you know, to begin with, it looks a lot better having the wood coloured bits filled in, and then we can just kind of leave that there to set dry to some degree. And I'm doing the same over here for Megan's guitar, which is, you know, nearly done, but I'm just I'm filling in some of those gaps as well. And a couple of the chips are really, really deep, but I want to build up with clear lacquer more than I want to build up with the colour, because the colour is a bit too dark for this guitar as well. Closer to this one, but it always looks very dark when you put it on. This is a sunburst and it's cherry, but it's got more red in it than, or more orange I should say, than it is this dark cherry colour. But it'll work. It will just, you know, it'll do the business for the. It'll stop it looking like it's been bashed against something. Oh look, here comes my cup of tea, darling. Hello. Hello. I'm just signing off after having done some little repairs on these. Sorry, this thing's a bit dangerous. There you go. Done some repairs on a couple of these different guitars. This one's the weird AcePro, so see, I've done some lacquer repairs, and I'm going to then sand those and then fill in with clear lacquer. Yeah. And it's a bit darker than ideal, but you know, it's better than being a big wood patch. Yeah. And I've also done some on the end there. And I've also done some.
Pretty good though.
Some on Megan's guitar. I found the split has gone through, well, the crack where it's been hit the wall has gone through to the other side. Oh. It's not moving anyway, so it's still intact. But you know, it's gone all the way around. But I don't think she'll have any problem with it. Right, so I'm going to stop the AcePro video here. I'm going to come back much later on when it's all dried off a bit, and we'll speak to you then. Radio. So now we are back on in AcePro territory, and well, as far as you're concerned, we were here a second ago, but what I've got is I've got the AcePro here with some vintage cherry lacquer on here. What I really want to do is sand that down a little bit and just move into well, applying some clear lacquer so we can build it up a little bit. So I can just see, just sanding this down a little bit before we add the clear gloss lacquer. Not too many spots on this, it's generally in fairly good nick, but we just want to make sure that we're starting from something that it's got a bit of roughed up surface, so it will grip the lacquer, or the lacquer will stick to it. And we've basically kind of roped off all the areas that I'm going to be doing here, so that they don't spill over and none of the surrounding areas get damaged or sanded when they don't need to be. In this guitar, on the AcePro, it's a mixture. What we're doing really is a mixture of cleaning up the existing lacquer where it's been badly scratched, and a combination of that and some small repairs. But it will certainly look better than it did. Even the colour match isn't totally fantastic. The vintage, sorry, not vintage, the heritage cherry, as it's called, is it's not a perfect match for this vintage guitar. No, not this AcePro cherry. It's close enough. By the time we get some layers of clear lacquer on top of it, we should be quite nicely covered up. So you will not notice that there were some chips right down to the wood at one point in this guitar's life. Yeah, so just popped out to pick my stepson up from a visit to his dad. But also on the way there, went to the supermarket to buy a guitar that was for sale from a young guy who was selling an Encore Les Paul. So I picked that up. That was a really good price, and it's a left-handed one. But what's really good about it is that it's the blaster version rather than just the plain Encore, so it really is a good quality one. So I got a bit lucky there. Just giving these surfaces a quick sand over. See the colour coming off there on the sandpaper. Right, so now it's going to be a case of what I'm going to do. I'm going to hang up something because I need. What do I need to hang up? No, I'm going to leave that to hang up. I'm going to switch between two guitars here. One will be this AcePro SG, and the other one will be the Epiphone SG. No, not the Epiphone SG. I'll be switching between this and Megan's Les Paul copy. So here we go. Lacquer time. I'm just going to put a coat of clear on, painting it on. That's all we have at the moment. We don't have any spray. And actually, to be honest, brushing lacquer on for these kind of repairs, I find is just as good, providing you give it the time needed to sand it level. Because of course, painted lacquer tends to build up quite quickly because it's gloopy. But if you do your sanding and keep it nice and flat between layers, you can build it up without becoming ridiculously blobby. And what I'll do is I'll put this on, and then I'll Probably leave a couple of hours between layers and go back on and do a bit more. It actually makes this vintage heritage cherry colour look a bit too dark, but it will be better than bare wood, I'm sure. Okay, that's some of it. It's very light, this, though it is mahogany. Mahogany sometimes can feel, or on an SG, mahogany SG, feels really light. And I found that out when I made my own orange coloured DIY one. When I bought it, I was thinking of it of mahogany as a really heavy wood. And it's very hard wood, but it's not heavy. It's quite light in some respects. So I was surprised that it didn't come out to be the great big lump of timber that I thought it was going to be. So just a quick whiz around. Oh, there's another area here that I forgot to do. Hard to see in this light, not perfect conditions for this. And got loads of this clear lacquer, which is good, and I've got some more coming in spray form later in the week. And see how much better, how much easier to finish actually is what I mean. Is a sprayed version, because I quite like painting it, but it does leave you with a challenge to sand down, or the levelling challenge when you're sanding is quite significant. So a sprayed version would probably be quite a lot easier. Let's just quickly whiz around and see if there's anything else that jumps out. Right, there's some bits here that are dents, and I'm going to paint into those with the clear lacquer because I want to build up a little repair. I just find that it's hard to get rid of them, but you can sort of fill them, and then it takes it away and smooths it to the touch. Right. Okay, so that's those. If I turn it upside down, they may well run a little bit, but that's not too critical because I can sand those down. So there is some other stuff I want to do here, which actually I better do before I hang it up, and that's the top. That's not a bad colour. Yes, so the Les Paul copy that I just got is a sort of a surprise bonus really. I was expecting the basic Encore, which again is not a bad guitar for buying and selling on the eBay second-hand market, mainly because although they're not the most glamorous guitars, they're still actually quite good. Basic Les Pauls, people can learn on them very easily. But this one is a bit nicer because it's the Blaster version. And I've had one of those before, and that was the pink one, which I got quite early on in the game, and I was very keen to see what the quality was like, and I was a little bit disappointed because the one I got had some cracks in the neck pocket, so it wasn't a great start altogether. Okay, and we'll just slip the noose of that one's neck. I think we should be right to hang it up without touching anything. I hope. Come on, up we go. Okay, so I'm going to just put down the Les Paul copy, which is Megan's guitar, and lay it down here, and we'll just do a couple of repairs here. Again, it's had time, a bit of time for the Heritage cherry lacquer to dry. It's not dried that much, but it'll be just enough for us to smooth it a bit. And then we can add some more clear lacquer to it. So, busy times here at the old Reloved. My biggest challenge is to make sure I don't run out of time. Get so much work coming in. Right, that's those sides. It's heavy, this one. Flip it over. Where's the other bits? Okay. I'm just really roughing this up enough so it will something for the clear lacquer to grip onto, but also helps to smooth it a little bit so we don't build up a huge kind of mountainous blob of stuff. And there's one down here. There we go. Right, so and there's quite a bit of work to do on the headstock on this one. It's taken a big bang somewhere. I'm just going to start by touching up these little bits first. I think I've managed, well, I hope I've managed to persuade Thomas to come out and do some work tomorrow. I think he's just getting used to the rigour of sixth form homework. It's come as a bit of a shock, I think. So there's certain of these jobs with the guitars he likes doing, but some of them he doesn't. So the kind of homework is a legitimate way out. But he's good at doing the fret levelling, so we'll get him onto that tomorrow with the Affinity Strat that we've got that I want to list this week if we can. Should be an easy one to do. They tend to be the Affinity Strats kind of got their number. Right. So once I've done this, I'm going to stop and we'll go take a break, and then we'll figure out where we pick up and carry on, because I'm not quite sure this second. To need the sponge block. Or two. Quite difficult. This is when you've chipped the binding away, it's quite hard to reproduce a clean white edged line. So I don't think we're going to manage that, but the main ambition is to smooth out this edge of the guitar so it doesn't feel like some cracked thing, sharp edged thing that it currently does. And there are bits of, oh, that is, I think it's bits of broken lacquer. Right. Move on to the headstock in a second. again. This will come back a little bit later and sand these off so that you get a level before we put any more on. Right, that's that bit, done that bit, done that bit. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it'll do. Now we have some black to go on here before we do anything else. This bit's going to be out of sync slightly. Can't really see. Move the camera angle. Yeah. Going to come flying down. There we are. So I'm just going to do a bit down here. What do I want to do with this? I want to just paint basically a little bit of black lacquer on top of this cherry bit here. So get all that roughed up a bit first. And this corner was down to the wood, so we can just build it up a couple of blobs at a time. We should be alright. I'm not sure these are my right specs for this. Where have I put them? Close up. Make sure I don't put those other ones on top of sandpaper, please. I had thought about this particular corner down here that could have used some filler. But right now I haven't got any. I've got some wood, liquid wood stuff, but it's quite good as a way of showing you how to do it for the for a low-tech approach. Okay, so in order to split this video up, I'm now going to stop the video. Do the flat ground down or file down tops of the frets, and then what you do once they're dry is you get the reprofiling tool, and this one's kind of neat because it's got a curve on it which lets me use it when the neck is attached to a guitar body, which one of these is. And this process is fairly straightforward. I'm going to support this neck a little bit because, as I said before, I don't like the fact that it's pressing down on such a weak joint or a weak piece of engineering. Sorry. I'm just going to bring my zoom in a bit more so you can see a bit closer what's going on. By the way, if you want to know the miracle of photography on this location shoot, it's done with an angle poised lamp and some strings attached to screws on the roof. But, okay, our little concave friend here, and we put it on top of here, and it's a bit rock and rollish. Can we do it so it doesn't move? No, not much different, really. I've got a thinner one, slightly thinner. Yeah, that'll do. Right, so we put this on here and we just cut away with this, and the idea of this will be that we get left with a little thin strip of marker pen down the middle. Not an awful lot in this case. My experiences so far is that these fret reprofiling files work best with certain size frets. These are semi-jumbos. The one on another guitar here somewhere we've got jumbo frets, and this is probably slightly built for the jumbo frets. So this, because these frets are smaller than this diameter, they kind of drop into there pretty quickly, so we have to be careful not to take any height. But I can still see we practically haven't touched the height of that. We've still got a little bit of the marker pen still in there, and we carry on doing the same. It doesn't need an awful lot of pressure because it's a diamond coated file, which is why it's so bloody expensive. And it will take a lot of material off. and then we can just basically whiz our way down the whole of the neck. And as you know, we're going to do all these 3 in one go. So in a way, this used to be the most difficult and time-consuming part of the job, but actually that has now shifted to being the next stage, which is the polishing stage. So as soon as the tools speed up one part, and then you start to kind of resent the coming of the next job that's onerous and long-winded. But nice and straightforward, kind of uniform finish as well. And you can see that obviously the masking tape here is critical for protecting the fingerboard as we do this. And it's very good at doing that. You almost never have any problems. If while you're doing any of this stuff, or if while I'm doing any of this stuff, the masking tape lifts up, then I'm disciplined enough to stop and replace it. Because what we really don't ever want to do, just for the sake of a couple of seconds, putting some more tape on, we don't want to run the risk of damaging the fingerboard. On an old guitar like this, maybe people wouldn't mind so much, maybe it wouldn't put people off buying it, but if I was doing this work for somebody on their pride and joy expensive guitar, then that would really, really piss them off. And understandably too, because there's no reason why these things shouldn't be properly protected. You can buy little metal protector strips, which I've got one here. I've stuck it into a piece of masking tape so I can use it straight away. But it is a bit fiddly, and you have to stick it down and then you have to move it along. And for the sake of some time, I prefer using the masking tape like this, because once it's down and you've done the whole neck, you're confident that you've got the whole lot covered off, and you've got one hand free for holding the neck, and the other hand free for doing the work. With this, you're kind of holding the thing down and holding the neck at the same time, and it's, for me, that isn't the best combination of where your attention is focused. More likely to run into some sort of problem. So all the while, the thing that's in your mind while you're doing this is, I want to shave down the edges of this, but I don't want to take the height down. And you're looking at to make sure that you don't suddenly scrape away all that black marker pen, or the traces of it, and suddenly find yourself wearing down the fret relative to its neighbours, in which case you will have made yourself a flat spot. And you're kind of condemning yourself to doing the whole job all over again, if you've got enough spare metal. And that's the real problem. And if you miscalculate that and you don't have enough spare metal, then you really are in the land of finding or going into refretting it. And if you haven't done it yourself before, and you're doing this job for someone else, then you're heading for a guitar tech or a luthier who can do it for you. Spend the money to make sure it gets done properly. Now, I haven't done it, but because I'm buying these guitars myself, and I have the freedom to mess them up if I want to, in order to learn on them, which is what I've pretty much done with all these guitars. And been lucky that only one of them was a bit messed up, and that was an encore that started off messed up, frankly. So apart from that one, which really wasn't a savable guitar anyway at the best of times, learning on these guitars hasn't cost me anything. In fact, because I've managed to sold all these guitars, it's, in a sense, I've been paid a little bit to learn, which is great as well. Okay, so you can see that that's not massively fast, but I've got where I wanted. I've got each fret reprofiled with the height untouched, so I know that I'm now in a good place with that neck. It's done. I'm now going to, I was going to do the Encore next, but I'm going to do this Grizzly AcePro because I'm kind of interested. It's had so much material taken off it that I'm kind of interested to know what it's going to be like. And I'll do the Encore neck last. Come on, AcePro. Ooh, hang on, what am I feeling here? Oh, no, what I forgot to do is put my... You should have told me. You should have spotted that. What kind of apprentice are you? I'll keep an eye out on this, that we don't run out of video as well. What's brilliant about this whole thing, about doing Relove guitars this way, is I still can't quite trust my luck in that, you know, once upon a time, not very long ago, YouTube was, you know, limited to a couple of minutes per video if you were lucky. You know, 10, I think it wasn't 10, something like that. You know, and things obviously were much harder to upload and took forever, and most people could hardly even watch videos anyway because it took so long to download. But the fact that now I'm able to upload all of this video, I mean, my broadband at home isn't any good for that. We're in a rural setting, so we are pretty limited. I would never be able to do this if I was just doing it from home, but I'm lucky that I work in London during the week, so a combination of ultra fast work, broadband in the evening, and you know, the fact that YouTube now lets you put up just gigabytes of video. Sometimes I can't believe my luck. But I don't have to think about that, or there isn't some sort of charge associated with it, because this is just perfect for me. Although I am putting up enormous files. I mean, these are videos of these jobs are kind of 7 gigabytes a time or something like that. That's a humongous file, and you know, I've probably got about 40 of them or more so far already. Pretty much it. One or more for every guitar that I've done. So thank you, YouTube. I mean, what a brilliant service for free. And, oh look, better yet, here comes a cup of tea. Hello, my darling.
Hello.
Oh, thank you.
I just trod on its tail underneath my feet.
Is you alright?
Well, he asked for milk and I gave him something.
That's alright then. Everything's fine. I'm doing a production line. I've got 3 necks going in a line, and I'm going to copy this segment of video 3 times. Quite clever, I thought. I was just saying on here that I'm astonished that YouTube lets me have so much video upload. You know, like a few years ago we couldn't even watch video online hardly, but the fact that they can chuck up a few 7 gigabyte films every week, it's just amazing.
Great, but it's so useful as well.
Yeah. I know, it almost feels too good to be true. You know, it's like whenever you find something really good that works for you, I'm waiting for YouTube to come along with an email now saying, yeah, your trial period is up, please pay £50 million. You never know.
But it's because it works.
They'll be watching this and they'll know it's time, and they'll hit me with a bill.
But Google are doing the same sort of thing.
Well, Google owns it, doesn't it?
Google lessons.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that you need longer than 30 seconds for.
Well, I'm really pleased that this was never about monetising video anyway, because I just think that charging for content model obviously isn't very effective. I mean, who really wants to pay to read a newspaper online?
Hello.
So, any sign of my my apprentice? Not yet. Has he finished his homework, do you think? He hasn't done any. Well, we're going to run out of day, and we really want to get that lovely Square Affinity done up and ready to go.
How's your back?
Sore, bending over and picking things up when I drop them stupidly is difficult. Don't do it. This one I had to take a lot of material off these frets. Some of the high spots on here were just unbelievable. Miles high. So that's the Ace Not Pro. Now I'm going to chuck that down here and go with the last of the three, which is the Encore with its massive angle.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just explaining a bit earlier on how so many percentage of Gibson Les Pauls have got broken necks and neck repairs, because you imagine this just falling over every time.
Oh, you can see.
Snap.
Yeah. Gosh.
So.
It's a design.
Yeah.
Floor, isn't it?
Expect well. The Gibson Les Paul shape and rock and roll probably don't mix, which is a complete contradiction in terms. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got some washing to do.
Now these are the kind of frets that work best with this file, that's for sure. Jumbo frets. Nice. Thank you for my tea, love. Yeah, it is clearly made for the jumbo fret size, but it will do the other ones, but it will kind of take them down a bit more than you might otherwise want. But slightly prohibitive to own 3 of these things, different sizes. Okay, so we're not far off. Moving to the next and probably most time-consuming stage of all, actually, as if this wasn't time-consuming enough, and that's the repolishing section. And it's kind of very, very critical, actually. I mean, all of this is critical, but with this, if you sort of take it easy, you can't go wrong, especially with these kinds of tools. But the next stage is critical in that if you rush it, the polishing part, what you'll end up with are frets that appear to be really smooth, but have still got the little tiny cuts from the fret file on the frets, and that's really disheartening, because you think you've polished it all, and visually at a distance it looks fantastic, everything's sparkling, and you know, you kind of clean it all off and you're ready to go, and you want to put the strings on and play it. And if you do put the strings on and play it, you can often find that what you've got is these gritty frets that look good but actually aren't. And the reason that can happen is because you have to stay with a very fine, stay with quite a heavy grade of paper, sandpaper, wet and dry, whatever you want to call it, until the point which you've removed the file marks that the fret file made. So in a way, your job is to start with frets that have got one size of gouge on the top of them, and you use a finer piece of gouging equipment, which is the sandpaper, maybe 300 or 600, whatever it is, and you keep going with that until the only gouges, scratches that remain on the fret are from that paper. Then when you've got that stage, you move down to finer paper, and you keep going until the only scratches that remain are the scratches that come from that grade of paper, and so on and so on. Now, the reality is once you're past the first mark and you've got the big